I was playing a ghost in a haunted house on Halloween. I happened upon a man and a woman looking for a thrill. Helpless, I had to hide under the bed and listen to their sweet nothings. After they finished their battle, I finally dared to crawl out from under the bed. But when I turned around, I was scared out of my wits. A man and a woman were lying on the wooden bed, one on top of the other. What was even more bizarre was that I swallowed hard and quickly bowed my head in apology. I didn't mean to watch. I'm sorry. But I was met with silence. I lifted my gaze and saw the two of them lying on the wooden bed in a compromising position. They were almost completely naked. The haunted house's atmospheric lights flickered, casting red and blue shadows on their bodies. The sight made me collapse to the floor in fear. Are you guys okay? I gathered my courage, got up, walked to the bed, and tremblingly placed my hand under the man's nose. No breath? Dead? They were dead? At that moment, my mind went blank. They were so full of life just a moment ago. How could they suddenly be dead? How did they die? Was it an accident? Or... A million questions flashed through my mind, but I couldn't think about any of them. I just wanted to get out of there. I stumbled out of the room, pulled out my walkie-talkie, and yelled to my boss in the monitoring room. "Boss, quick! Call the police! Someone's dead in the asylum room!" A piercing scream came from the other end of the walkie-talkie. The next second, my boss rushed out of the monitoring room, but he only glanced at the door of the asylum-themed room and didn't dare to step inside. It was his first time dealing with something like this. He paced back and forth in the hallway, at a loss. How could this happen? How did someone just die? I suddenly remembered that my boss had been in the monitoring room the whole time. "Boss," I asked, "you were in the monitoring room. Didn't you notice anything unusual?" Hearing my words, my boss stopped pacing abruptly. He turned to look at me, his bangs covering one of his eyes. The hallway lights flickered. The sight sent a shiver down my spine.
Then my boss sighed heavily and ran a hand through his hair in frustration. The camera in the asylum room was covered by that guy's clothes. The guy gave me $500 earlier, said he wanted to have some fun with his girlfriend. I figured, why turn down easy money? So I let it slide. My boss said, lighting a cigarette and exhaling a worried cloud of smoke. Who knew something like this would happen? At this, he suddenly flinched and looked at me suspiciously. "Owen, you were hiding under the bed the whole time. How could you not know how they died?" "How would I know? I was just lying under the bed, minding my own business, and they started going at it. I didn't even dare to breathe. When I didn't hear anything from outside, I thought they had left. That's when I dared to come out. Who knew that they hadn't just left, they were gone?" I clutched my chest, complaining with lingering fear. Why didn't you give me a heads up about something like this? Just then, someone tapped my shoulder. I turned around, and a zombie face was right in front of mine. My heart stopped for a second before I realized the zombie was my college classmate, Leo. Leo didn't seem to notice the strange expressions on our faces and said cheerfully, "How could you two smoke without me?" The boss was Leo's distant cousin. He shot Leo a glare. "Smoke, smoke, smoke your head! For crying out loud. Someone's dead, you know that?" Leo froze, then chuckled. "It's Halloween, not April Fool's Day. Bro, what kind of joke is that? Aren't haunted houses full of dead people?" "Your cousin isn't joking. Someone really died." I nudged my chin toward the asylum room. "In that room, a man and a woman." Leo still didn't believe it and swaggered toward the room. He stopped at the doorway, his body visibly stiffening. Half a second later, he let out a sharp scream. What is going on?" Leo rushed toward me in terror, practically trying to hang himself on me. I shoved him away in disgust. "The police will be here soon." Speak of the devil. As soon as I said it, the sound of police sirens came from outside. Before long, several police officers walked toward us. The one in the lead, an older man, said,
Hello, we're from the Portland Police Homicide Division. My name is Detective Collins. Detective Collins' gaze swept over the three of us. Who reported this? He asked. The boss raised his hand, his voice as quiet as a mosquito. I did. I'm the owner of this haunted house. Detective Collins nodded. Where are the bodies? Right ahead, the boss pointed. I'll show you the way. As expected of a seasoned old cop, Detective Collins didn't even frown at the shocking scene. Who discovered the deceased? I nervously stepped forward. I did, Detective Collins. I then recounted what had just happened in detail. Detective Collins frowned slightly. Are you saying no third party was present during the entire process? I replayed the details in my mind. I was under the bed, so I couldn't see what was happening on top of it, but based on the sounds, there was no third party. Detective Collins didn't say anything. He looked around the room before turning to the boss. Were they the only 2 customers in your haunted house? The boss nodded. It was supposed to be a group booking today, originally for 7 people, but in the end, only they 2 showed up. Was the booking made by the 2 deceased? The boss shook his head. I don't know. The person made the reservation over the phone, and after confirming, he paid in full. With that, the boss found the reservation number and showed it to Detective Collins. Detective Collins immediately dialed the number. A few seconds later, a phone rang in the room. It was vibrating wildly inside a jacket on the floor. Detective Collins bent down and picked up the deceased's phone. It was password protected, but the lock screen was an intimate photo of a man and a woman. The man in the photo was the male victim, but the woman with him was clearly not the female victim at the scene. The police quickly cordoned off the scene. Everyone in the haunted house was taken to the police station. Besides the 3 of us, there was also a cleaning lady, Mrs. Davis. As we were leaving the haunted house, I saw the police carrying out the bodies. Strangely, the 2 bodies were not moved separately. They were still in a connected state, like conjoined twins. I curiously asked Detective Collins, who was walking beside me, Detective Collins, why aren't the 2 bodies being moved separately? Are you afraid of destroying clues? A flicker of awkwardness crossed Detective Collins' dark face. It's not that we don't want to. Their lower bodies are stuck together with something. We can't separate them. I was shocked. Kids these days are into some wild stuff. At the station, the 4 of us were taken to different interrogation rooms. The young officer who had been with Detective Collins was the one taking my statement. Owen Price, correct? I nodded. Yes. You are currently a junior at Portland University. Why were you at the asylum haunted house today? The owner of the haunted house is my classmate Leo's cousin. He got me a part-time job there. I sighed, filled with regret. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have gone. The officer asked, have you seen the 2 deceased before? I paused, then shook my head. No, I don't know them. I was under the bed getting ready all evening, so I didn't see them before they came into my room. The female officer frowned and continued, a normal person's first reaction in this situation would be to speak up and stop them. Why did you choose to remain silent and let them do such a thing in a public place? I gave a bitter smile. At first, I didn't even know they were doing that. I only realized it when I heard the sounds. Their pants were already off. Wouldn't it have been rude for me to crawl out then? It was better to wait for them to leave and pretend it never happened. Besides, I muttered under my breath, what if I scared him at a critical moment and gave him performance issues? Perhaps I was too blunt. The female officer's face turned red and she shot me a glare. Did you hear any strange noises at the time? After thinking for a moment, I replied, I think I heard a dripping sound, like water, but I'm not sure if it was just the haunted house's sound effects. I paused. Officer, what was the cause of death for the 2 victims? Fearing they would misunderstand, I quickly explained, I'm just curious. There were only the 3 of us at the scene, and they just died without any warning. Before I could finish, Detective Collins pushed the door open. He came in, picked up the female officer's notepad, and looked it over. Then he asked me again, Owen Price, have you ever seen these 2 victims? I took a sharp, uneasy breath. I swallowed hard and stuck to my previous answer. No, I haven't. Detective Collins pulled 2 photos from his folder and placed them in front of me. These are the victims found in the haunted house. The man's name is Leo Vance, and the woman is Mia Roberts. Detective Collins frowned. We have a witness who stated that you had an argument with Leo Vance at the intersection 200 meters from the haunted house this afternoon. I was stunned. I hadn't expected anyone to see that. Why didn't you mention this? Detective Collins' gaze became sharp. I feigned composure. I forgot, and he was wearing a hat at the time. I didn't even recognize him as the victim. You forgot? Detective Collins stared at me with an inscrutable expression. Then try to remember now. What were you arguing about? It was nothing major, I shrugged nonchalantly. This afternoon, the boss asked me to move some Halloween supplies into the shop. I was carrying too much and accidentally bumped into him. I had already apologized, but he wouldn't let it go. I got angry and argued back a bit. I paused and looked at Detective Collins sincerely. Officer, a small thing like that shouldn't affect your investigation, right? Whether it affects it or not is not for you to decide. Your hiding this fact only increases our suspicion of you, Detective Collins replied coldly. Suspicion? I licked my lips nervously and quickly denied it. Officer, this really has nothing to do with me. Even if I argued with Leo Vance this afternoon, I wouldn't kill someone over something so trivial. Detective Collins didn't respond. He continued. According to the intersection's security camera, you didn't return to the haunted house after the argument. Instead, Leo Vance went there. But Leo Vance's reservation was for 7 in the evening. Why would he go to the haunted house in the afternoon? After arguing with him, I was so mad I went to the convenience store up ahead to buy a cold drink to cool off. As for why he went to the haunted house in the afternoon, a thought struck me, and I suddenly remembered what my boss had said earlier. I heard from my boss that Leo Vance had arranged with him beforehand to have some fun with his mistress at the haunted house. I guess he went there in the afternoon to discuss that. Detective Collins nodded, his pen scribbling down my words. He stopped halfway through, looked up, and his gaze fell on me again. Mistress. Why do you say Mia Roberts was Leo Vance's mistress? My heart tightened. I then explained with an awkward smile. Didn't we all see Leo Vance's phone? The girl on his lock screen isn't this Mia Roberts. So I guessed she was his mistress. I licked my lips. Am I wrong, Detective Collins? Detective Collins stared at me for a moment before speaking. The lock screen on Leo Vance's phone is his ex-girlfriend, Tina Foster. Ex-girlfriend? How is that possible? I raised my voice, cutting him off. Meeting his scrutinizing gaze, I weakly explained. I mean, who would use their ex-girlfriend's photo as their lock screen? I scoffed. And that Leo Vance guy doesn't exactly look like the loyal type. Because Tina Foster has been missing for a year, Detective Collins said gravely, and coincidentally, this Tina Foster went to the same university as you and Leo. I raised my eyebrows in surprise. For real? What a coincidence! Detective Collins rapped the table with his fist. Be serious. Do you know Tina Foster? His tone shifted. I shook my head. No. Officer, our university has tens of thousands of students. How could I possibly know everyone? According to our files, this Tina Foster was a well-known figure at your university. She often spoke on behalf of the student body. You really have no impression of her? I shook my head helplessly. Really? No impression? Does this Tina Foster have anything to do with this case? I asked curiously. He frowned, and I immediately shut my mouth. I get it. Case details can't be disclosed. At the time of the incident, the door to the room was locked from the inside, and the windows were sealed shut. In other words, there were only the 3 of you in that room. He narrowed his eyes, and I immediately felt an intense pressure. Owen Price, I advise you to tell the truth. I quickly sat up straight, my face a picture of sincerity, just short of swearing an oath. Detective Collins, this really has nothing to do with me. I paused. Could it be that they got too excited during their activities, and their hearts just gave out and they croaked? Autopsy reports usually take 48 hours, so the police couldn't determine the cause of death for Leo Vance and Mia Roberts. You have a point. Detective Collins suddenly smiled, crossing his arms. Then please wait until the autopsy report is out." With that, he got up and left. After he left, I asked the female officer who had been questioning me, "Officer, I still have classes to get back to. When can I leave? I heard that a summons for questioning can't exceed 24 hours. The officer replied without looking down from her papers, "Don't worry, we follow all the rules and regulations. You're being held for questioning because you are the sole witness at the crime scene." I nodded and asked one more thing. "What about my boss and my classmate?" "They should have left already," she replied. Hearing this news, my shoulders finally relaxed completely.
The night was exceptionally long. I dozed off in the interrogation room. Just as my head was about to hit the table, Detective Collins came in. He was holding a paper cup, which he pushed in front of me. "Have some hot water." I opened my groggy eyes, took the cup, flattered, and took a small sip. "Thank you." The medical examiner has preliminarily determined that Leo Vance and Mia Roberts died of asphyxiation, Detective Collins said flatly. My hand holding the cup tightened slightly. "Now, can you tell me what really happened?" Detective Collins' dark eyes were fixed on me. "I really don't know," I repeated tirelessly. "I was hiding under the bed, and Leo Vance and Mia Roberts started doing it on the bed. What could I do? I was helpless too." Detective Collins seemed to have expected this answer. He pulled out a few more photos. "This is a plastic bag we found at the scene. We found Leo Vance's DNA on it. We have reason to believe that someone used this plastic bag to cover Leo Vance's head, causing him to suffocate." I still looked at him with a blank expression. "Who was that person?" Detective Collins tapped the table. "Shouldn't I be the one asking you that question?" I feigned horror. "Detective Collins, you don't mean that person was me, do you?" If my testimony was true, it meant no fourth person had entered the crime scene, which would make me the prime suspect. But if my testimony was false, and there was a fourth person, why would I help the killer cover up the truth? In other words, regardless of whether my testimony was true or false, I was more than just a simple witness in this case. I guess that was Detective Collins' line of reasoning. But his theory was soon overturned because the medical examiner had a new discovery. They found another fingerprint on the handle of the plastic bag. This fingerprint did not belong to Leo Vance, nor did it belong to me. It belonged to Mia Roberts.
Could it be Mia Roberts who killed Leo Vance? Then who killed Mia Roberts? This must be what was troubling the police now. There were less than 5 hours until my interrogation time was up. If Detective Collins couldn't find any evidence linking me to the case, I could go home. I sat in the interrogation room, questioned repeatedly by different officers about the same things, and my answers remained the same. During my 5th interrogation, Detective Collins finally appeared again. This time, he was holding a file. "The autopsy reports for Leo Vance and Mia Roberts are out. Their cause of death was not asphyxiation, but shock induced by an allergic reaction." "Allergies?" I asked, puzzled. "I thought you said it was asphyxiation." Detective Collins's face looked a bit grim. "The ME made that initial judgment based on the external condition of the bodies, but after a detailed autopsy, we found that the victims' tracheas were inflamed and swollen, which is not typical of a normal asphyxiation death. The ME performed IgE level tests and serum drug sensitivity tests. It can be basically confirmed that Leo Vance died of shock from a pollen allergy, and Mia Roberts from an allergy to benzyl alcohol, which is an ingredient in perfume. Mia Roberts' death was not what I had intended. So it was an accident?" I frowned. Detective Collins's expression remained grave. "Two people with different allergens having simultaneous allergic shocks. Could it be such a coincidence? Owen Price, what's your take on this?" I froze. I'm not Watson, I thought. How should I know? If Leo Vance died of allergy shock, what about the plastic bag? A flicker of awkwardness crossed Detective Collins' face. "We unlocked Leo Vance's and Mia Roberts' phones and found several group chats. From their conversations, it appears they both had SM tendencies. So the plastic bag was part of their scene? Detective Collins cleared his throat and changed the subject. Did you smell anything unusual at the time? I rubbed my nose. I have rhinitis, and it's gotten worse with the recent cold weather, so my sense of smell isn't very sensitive. But I stared at the photo on the table and suddenly noticed a detail the police had overlooked. Detective Collins, look at the plastic bag. I pointed to the English letters on it. This is from a very popular flower-themed coffee shop. With a new lead, Detective Collins immediately sent officers to investigate the shop. They got results quickly. The shop's security camera showed Mia Roberts getting a takeout order in the afternoon. The shop had a promotion where a purchase over $88 came with a free bouquet of flowers. When Mia Roberts left, she was carrying that very bag, and inside it were vibrant red roses. There was pollen residue on the bag, which caused Leo Vance to have an allergy shock when he put it over his head. Leo Vance's death was explained. There was also a new development regarding Mia Roberts. The police found that Leo Vance had once bought a spray called obedience water. Obedience water was actually a type of knockout drug. To disguise it, criminals packaged it as perfume, adding perfume ingredients to the contents. An empty bottle of this perfume was also found at the scene. All the evidence seemed to form a closed loop. Leo Vance had an allergy shock because of Mia Roberts' plastic bag, and Mia Roberts died because Leo Vance used obedience water on her. Although Detective Collins was still suspicious, he had no reason to keep me for further questioning. It was a bright, sunny day when I walked out of the police station. I raised my hand to shield my eyes. Leo, the boss, and Mrs. Davis were waiting for me up ahead. Owen Price. Detective Collins suddenly called out to me. I turned around and smiled. Detective Collins, are there any more questions? You and Leo both have adoption records. You both came from St. Jude's Orphanage. And there's one other person who shares your circumstances.
Detective Collins slowly uttered a name we hadn't heard in a long time. Tina. After she was adopted, her name was changed to Tina Foster, who is Leo Vance's ex-girlfriend who has been missing for a year. I licked my lips and feigned surprise. So Tina Foster was Tina? Detective Collins stared at me with an unreadable expression for a moment, then waved his hand. You can go. We'll contact you if we have any more questions. I nodded and turned to leave. To be honest, I hadn't expected Detective Collins to uncover our connection to Tina. He was right. Leo, Tina, and I had lived together at St. Jude's Orphanage. We were each other's best friends in childhood, the famous Three Musketeers of the orphanage. Actually, it wasn't just the three of us. If Detective Collins had dug a little deeper, he would have found that the boss and Mrs. Davis used to work at St. Jude's. We were orphans, but we felt warmth in the big family of St. Jude's Orphanage. But all good things must come to an end. The three of us were later adopted by different families, but before we parted, we made a pact that the Three Musketeers would one day reunite at the same university. We all kept our promise and got into the same university as we wished. But on a Saturday that was as ordinary as any other, Tina disappeared. Saturday was our Three Musketeers dinner time, but that day we couldn't reach Tina no matter how hard we tried. It wasn't just us. Tina's roommates, friends, and even her academic advisor couldn't reach her. Later, the university reported it to the police, but after the police came to the school and asked around, the case went cold. About 1 million people go missing in the country every year, which means about 2,739 people disappear every day. That's 2 people disappearing into thin air every minute. Faced with such a huge caseload, if a missing person isn't found after a reasonable effort, the police will classify the case as a cold case or temporarily close it. After months of fruitless efforts, Tina's case was also filed away. People say time heals all wounds, but it doesn't. Time doesn't solve any problems. After Tina disappeared, everything seemed to return to normal. But Leo,
I and the boss and Mrs. Davis, who treated us like our own children, felt like we were living in a vortex of torment every day, until we logged into Tina's private social media account and found a breakthrough.
Tina's private account often reposted fun and interesting things to a stranger's account. From the brief comments, it was clear that Tina and the owner of this account were in a relationship. The boss hired a private investigator, and soon, all the information about this man was laid bare. His name was Leo Vance, the owner of a small company. Tina had worked part-time at his company, which must have been where they met. Men from society like Leo Vance always have a certain fantasy about female university students, and Leo Vance had wrapped this fantasy in the guise of love. Tina was naive and quickly fell for his sweet talk, but she didn't know that beneath Leo Vance's civilized exterior was a promiscuous scumbag. He had played with many girls, some willing, some forced. Because his family had a little money and a little power, he could almost always get away with it. Most of the girls he bullied were powerless, so they could only swallow their pain. After reading the private investigator's report, we all agreed that Tina's disappearance was related to Leo Vance. Soon, our suspicions were confirmed. Leo hacked into Leo Vance's computer. There were thousands of videos of Leo Vance with women, and one of them was with Tina. The video was dated the day before we realized Tina was missing. In the video, the girl was naked and barefoot, lying on the floor, while Leo Vance sat on top of her, mercilessly whipping her with a leather whip. Until the end of the video, the girl was still crying and screaming, "Let me go, please let me go." After watching the video, we were trembling with rage, and a dark premonition grew in our hearts. We didn't immediately take the video to the police. Because the boss had studied law, he knew that this video alone was not enough to prove that Leo Vance was connected to Tina's disappearance, let alone convict him. This is also why we deliberately changed his phone's lock screen after he died. If the police discovered the relationship between Leo Vance and Tina, they might be able to unravel the truth and find Tina's whereabouts.
Unexpectedly, I saw Detective Collins again very soon. He informed me that the police had found Tina's body, hidden in an abandoned factory in the western suburbs, and the owner of that factory was Leo Vance. In the morgue, Tina lay quietly on a gurney. Her eyes were closed, and there wasn't a single inch of her skin that was unscathed. It was clear how much humiliation and torture she had suffered before she died. My hands at my sides were clenched into fists. I bit my lip hard to keep myself from crying. Detective Collins, standing next to me, spoke slowly. The police have confirmed that the person who killed Tina Foster was Leo Vance. The preliminary judgment is that Leo Vance accidentally killed Tina Foster during a sexual encounter. To cover it up, he dumped her body in the factory in the western suburbs. A cold smile touched my lips. Then why are there so many wounds on her body? Leo Vance was an SM enthusiast, Detective Collins said, pursing his lips. The medical examiner has confirmed that many of the wounds on Tina's body are from a whip. Tina was clearly raped, but in the face of these cold examination results, the truth had become a story of her and Leo Vance playing an SM game together. But none of that mattered anymore. Leo Vance was already dead. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. From the moment I stepped into the morgue, Detective Collins's gaze had never left me. I knew he still suspected me, but his suspicions were doomed to lead nowhere. Leo Vance was lured to the asylum haunted house by an exciting advertisement designed by Leo. And Mia Roberts ended up with that plastic bag of roses because she had won a free meal at the flower-themed coffee shop. Perhaps that small amount of pollen wasn't enough to kill Leo Vance. But maybe it was because Mrs. Davis had sprayed an air freshener mixed with pollen extract when she was cleaning the haunted house. Or maybe it was because the boss had sealed all the windows in the asylum room to create a terrifying atmosphere, so the air in the room was very stagnant. Perhaps if Leo Vance had taken his medicine when his allergic symptoms first appeared, he would have been fine. But the medicine he carried with him was knocked out of his hand by me this afternoon, scattering all over the ground. A series of coincidences led to Leo Vance's death. But how many coincidences like that really happen in the world?